Welcome everyone to Surviving the Shift. This 4-episode series will discuss the ins and outs of online distance learning and what parents and educators can do as virtual learning becomes part of our new reality. Each episode, we'll be focusing on a specific stage of education. For this debut episode, we'll be focusing specifically on early education, early childhood, specifically nursery and preschool. I'm your host, Michelle Aventajado, Executive Director of Best Buddies Philippines and mom of 4. Joining us today for our panel discussion are our esteemed educators, Jamie Malley, who's the founder and creative director of 100 Ways Atelier, and Vanessa Morales Belquiadra, co-founder of Kids First Discovery Space. Welcome, ladies.
Hi,
Hello.
Michelle. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
Happy to be
Hi,
here.
Jamie. Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
How are you?
We're good.
Good.
Okay,
Yep.
great. Okay, so first, before we start, I'd like to set the landscape. Let's put this out there and say how is early childhood education adjusting to this shift? Here in the Philippines, how are you guys specifically coping with the shift to virtual learning on the different platforms, and what adjustments are our nursery schools and preschools doing in general? So Vanessa, let's start with you.
Sure. There's a lot of changes that's been happening in the past 6 months because of the whole lockdown, quarantine. So we had to shift to online classes. So we do everything now through like this, through the screen. We had to adjust. Technically, we had to adjust how we teach because we are so used to face-to-face learning, and that's how we actually believe the best way the kids can learn is through play and seeing their teachers. But now we had to make do with what we have, and we had to keep up with the time. So we are now doing online classes.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah. Just the same with Vanessa. I mean, I can say for us, we were less prepared, and we needed to think about education technology and interventions for distance learning. And we're still adjusting, just the same as all the other preschools. And we're still constantly reflecting on what works and doesn't work. I think one of the, obviously the huge adjustment there is like shifting to virtual learning, right? And also at the same time, one of the minor adjustments that we needed to think about is the schedule, like how many minutes do we want our children to be on screen? And then also
I agree.
like class ratio as well, we needed to think about that because it's different in like when you're in a physical space, when they're going to school. So that is now, the class ratio has now been significantly reduced to like half. So at least for us, it's like 6:1 for our class ratio as opposed to 10:12. So that was reduced at like half.
Right. Okay. So taking those things into consideration and taking each of your paradigms in terms of how you do educate your students, both of your institutions have different approaches to how you teach, right? Different but the same, of course, at this level. So Kids First, of course, Kids First Discovery Space, everything is through discovery, the natural way that children learn. And then 100 Ways, of course, we know the Reggio inspired. We know that environment is actually the third teacher. How are you adapting these paradigms or these ways of teaching to the kids to now doing it, the way we're meeting here? Jamie, why don't you start?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So one of the principles of the Reggio Emilia approach is they consider it as the environment as a third teacher. So what does this mean? So it means like it can be any space. It can be 100 Ways Atelier space. It can be your home, or it can be at the park. So these spaces provide opportunities for for children to explore, experiment, discover, and to really ignite curiosity and learning.
Right.
So we do that with we do that with our online classes as well. So we help our parents to guide them on how best to set up their spaces to create a learning environment that is best suited for their children's needs.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, I agree with Jamie, exactly what Jamie said. That's what we had to start with. We had to start with the parents
Yeah.
So we had to equip them first and just make sure that they're ready for this new journey that they're taking with us, because it's very different. It's very different from face-to-face learning, where they're so used to, they drop off their kids, they say bye, I'll see you in
Yeah.
2 hours or 3 hours, and then
Yeah.
I'll come back. Now we actually started with the parents. We equipped them by just telling them how to create a space for their kids for learning.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
we can't tell them, okay, you have to create a classroom just like ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
They're working either in a home, in a
Yeah.
condo, so we
Yeah.
had to adjust to that, and that's the first step. In terms of creating that play-based feel for the kids,
Mm-hmm.
we actually send home stuff for them to do. We
Yeah.
actually send home
Same.
learning kits for them, right,
Yes.
Sammy? That's how,
Wonderful.
I guess it's just, we're working with the families very closely this time
Yeah.
around. I mean, we've already done that the past years, but this time it's very different because it's now even more close, like
Yeah.
really tight
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Even more
Yeah.
hands-on, I would say,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Even more
Definitely.
hands-on. So that
right.
actually leads us to our next question, because I do believe that the mindset of both the educators and the teachers and being able to work together can be the first challenge, right? If you're looking at preparing the parents, preparing the students, of course, preparing your teachers,
Yes.
what are some of the other challenges that we can expect to face at this stage of development? Because we know that, this is already, nursery and preschool is already a transitional time for kids as they leave the
Right.
nest, they
Yeah.
leave the home, and they go
Yeah.
into a
Yes.
school. So now that transition has kind of also shifted, what do you see some of the challenges being? And if we are going to address the elephant in the room, how do we reconcile this, every child's need to discover and play, but in this now, new four walls that we're all confined to, or park if we can get outside near our home? So first question would be, what are the challenges besides mindset? And then the second is, how do we address this natural playfulness that now we have to do online? Vanessa, why don't you start?
The first challenge is actually internet, the Wi-Fi. I mean,
Yes.
That's
let's.
a huge
I think
challenge.
that I think our country wasn't ready for everybody working at home and everybody studying at home. So,
All at the same time.
yes, right.
Right. I
So,
can speak for that too.
so everybody had to either get a second provider, or
Sure.
they had to amp their Wi-Fi at home. So that's the first thing. That's the first challenge. And let's be realistic. Not everybody may be able to afford it. So that's one. Second, it's that balance of parents working from home and parents assisting their children while they're working from home. So that's been a challenge for a lot of parents. That's why a lot of the webinars that we have been offering in school are
Yeah.
really to equip the parents, really to just make them more confident doing this, and to make them, to empower them that they can do this, anyway, especially that they're the parents of these kids. We trust them fully that they can do it. It's the
Kind of like
playfulness
guiding
part.
them, no? The parents.
Yes, right. They have our full support, right, Jamie? Like, um, we're like counselors and teachers, and now we have to listen to the parents and the challenges that they face. In terms of the kids being playful, like what
Yeah.
Jamie said, we had to change our schedule in terms of how long the class will be.
Mhm.
We have to also make sure that um it's still a safe space. Like, for example,
Yeah.
whatever platform we choose, it's safe for them to be in. That it's just enough time for them to be in class, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of brain breaks in between. There's a lot of standing up, dancing, a lot of games and singing, um, just so they feel that it's a regular class, but they're just at home,
Yeah.
right, Jamie? I don't know.
I agree. I agree, definitely, Vanessa. Absolutely. But for one, in the child's mindset, I think for one, it's the social interaction with other children. outside their family, because we believe, especially with the Rage and Millie approach, we really believe that children learn and grow with their relationships with others. So then how do we reconcile that in the virtual learning classes that we offer? Because we understand that children learn best through play. And so in our virtual classes, we try to incorporate and encourage activities that will encourage collaboration. So we incorporate a lot of games and play-based activities that will, again, encouraging collaboration with others.
So the challenges that we all see here can really be addressed by, you mentioned collaborating, really by collaborating with everybody that is actually involved, right?
That's
so
true.
It's no longer parents dropping off their kids and saying, okay, see you at 4 o'clock or see you at 2 o'clock. Now it's really collaboration of what works in the situation with constant evaluation and adjustment, right?
Right. And also, I think Vanessa mentioned about sending home the learning kits, the materials that children will use for play. I think that is one of the important things that we needed to incorporate in our virtual classes, because there are some parents who are not keen to go out. And so that's why we've sent out learning kits or learning materials, because if we don't send learning materials, then that kind of limits the activities that we wanted to provide kids. So then we considered of just sending the materials, and then we let the children explore and discover, on how they will use that material, the particular material. And especially because some parents, they don't have natural sensory materials in their homes. And so we send these out so that, we have the best materials that the children can use for their virtual classes. And also, even after the synchronous learning, they can then continue the exploration after the virtual classes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very true.
Right. So the synchronous and the asynchronous learning, when you guys are Jamie, you mentioned it. So I just want to expound on that a little bit. From the evaluations and the adjustments and the things, what have you found that didn't work? Right? So that you quickly adjusted. You said that one of the things that you brought up was the kits, right? Everybody now is, we love these kits that come to the house. I know me as a parent, of course, I love the kits. I love the food kits. I love the learning kits. I love all of these kits that have now become part of our new reality. What, aside from adjusting with hands-on learning kits, because these kids are very hands-on at this age, what else have you been able to assess and then adjust or pivot in terms of what's working and what's not? Who wants to start?
I guess I'll start. When we started the online classes in May, Jamie touched on this a while ago, the class size. We thought the 10 to 12 per class was going to work, even if there were 3 teachers in the classroom. But it was very difficult. If we wanted to continue our philosophy and mission of having a small class size ratio, teacher ratio, then we had to adjust. So when we were planning for the school year, we just had to cut down on the number of students in the classroom with the same number of teachers in the classroom. So that's one of the things that we had to adjust. And that's why I think that's the reason why we started sending home these learning kits every month, is because we realized parents would message us and say, teacher, I don't have buttons at home, or teacher, I don't have enough glue, or so we realized it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient for these parents, and with the whole adjustment, we also want them to have a happy experience having their kids learn from home. So we wanted it as convenient, as easy as possible for the families, and for the teachers. Yes, it's extra work. It's extra work making these packets every month, and actually we drop them off personally to the families. But we see the value that it creates in the home, and also the students, when they see us from outside, they're inside their garage and we're outside their gates,
and then handing it over.
They realize that they're real people. They're really my teachers, and that for us, that's very satisfying as teachers.
Of course, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Jamie,
so
do you have
fun.
anything to add to that in terms of
Just the same.
adjustments?
Yeah, just the same. I think I've touched about adjusting to, like, the schedule, and also, like, with the materials, because that's one of the hurdles really that we get from the parents, like,
Right.
oh, I don't have this, I don't have that. So what do we do then, right? So we try to kind of like help parents to kind of like alleviate some of the headaches. So we started incorporating by sending out materials to the family so that it'll be easier for them.
So and I want to touch on the scheduling. So the scheduling, aside from now making your class sizes smaller, and the scheduling, how did you have to adjust that way? Are there certain times of day that work better for these kiddos, or does that matter?
So for us, if I can share, for us, we do it like MWF, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays is like their break, and then our classes is only from like for 45 minutes, nothing over than 45 minutes, so that we encourage them to continue their exploration after the synchronous learning. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, that can be like, less screen time for them. And then they just kind of like continue their exploration, because we also sent out like a guidelines, or like a class guide. And we've included there some suggestions on how they can extend their learning further based on the topic that we did for the week or for the month.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Vanny, do you have anything to add to
Yeah,
that?
we actually had to, yeah, because we normally have, like what I mentioned a while ago, for toddlers, about an hour and a half to 2 hours in class.
Right.
Now
Physical.
it's down to 45 minutes to an hour.
True,
And
right?
even for the kids, the older kids, the kinder students, they're supposed to be in school for about 3 hours, but now they're just in school
Yeah.
an hour and a half, and just 4 times a week. So,
Yeah.
like what Jamie said, it's very important they do offline stuff. So
True.
we encourage the parents to continue making them play with their toys,
Yes.
making them play in the
Yes.
garden, making
Yeah.
them do chores at home. So it's different now that the parents are more hands-on. It's
Yeah.
actually more fun because they get to do more things. They're
Yes.
allowed to do more things now. So
Yes.
so when they're not in class, they, like what Jamie said, they have a guide.
Mhm.
In Kids First, we call it a learning packet. We give them a monthly learning packet. So
Okay.
those are activities that they can do
Yeah.
while offline.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So aside from making sure the kids are, playing, learning, following up on the learning concepts, or the what you would like them to learn for that week or that month, what else can parents do to help the kids transition? And how can we encourage parents to actually become more hands-on in this new role of now, now they're not just going to work, but they're cooking, and they're taking care of the kids, and they're doing everything else. How can we encourage them, and what else can we do? How else can we guide them to, becoming, helping facilitate this form of virtual learning where everybody, is pitching in, and of course, churning out happy kids. We want happy kids at the beach, right?
Definitely.
Of course, yes.
Because if you have stressed out parents, you won't have happy kids, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so that's a big part, right? Attitude,
It is
then,
a huge
and
part.
mental preparedness.
True. So, I mean, for me, really, I think it's the ongoing support. You make the parents feel that we're here for them, that we're always going to be supporting them in every way. And I think I always say this during our parent meetings, that, it's really difficult, this new platform that we're doing virtual classes. But then I always tell them that even if it's difficult, but if we work together with the shared goal of supporting the whole child, it'll be easier. Because that's really the goal naman talaga. It's really supporting the whole child, your child. And so the program is not going to be successful if there's no participation from parents. We can only do so much as a provider, as an educational institution, but we also need the parents' hand now more than ever because of this pandemic that we're thrust into. So I think it's really about just like, having that, constant communication with parents and providing them ongoing support. I think that's really it.
Right. So that's actually, you've started outlining parent expectations. Like, what do the educators expect from the parents, aside from, being that support system as well? Maddie, what else, how would you say you divide, because you're a parent as well, right? How would you divide?
So 3 kids.
So how would
3
you
young
divide,
kids.
right?
Oh
So
Yeah.
how would you divide the tasks, or outline the expectations of, okay, as an educator, this is what we can do, this is what we will provide. As a parent, we need you to do this, aside from what Jamie mentioned earlier.
You know what? I completely agree with Jamie. We really have to empower the parents and equip them, like what I said earlier. We have to, actually, we're still the teachers of these kids, but at the end of the day, the first parents of these children are the parents. So we are actually just transferring what we know to them, like whatever strategies work with us in the classroom or worked for their kids, we share it with them. Or we actually, well, now I'm not afraid to say when they're with their child and facilitating the learning with us, I'm not afraid to say, Mommy, can we give them more time to just answer before you ask the question again? So it's that. I think parents, I mean, that's why possibly there's a term called stage mother or
tiger mom,
right? So I'm not saying my parents are stage parents, but you have the tendency. I mean,
I hear you.
I mean, I'm a parent too, so you have the tendency to just blurt out the answer, or all of a sudden you're telling them the question over and over and over again without giving them time to think. And that's one of the things that we believe in. We believe that they have to experience, explore, and think for themselves. So dividing the task is it's difficult, because there's, the fine line is, oh my God, how do we define it, right?
Yeah, I think not more so in dividing, but it's really like a partnership, right? We see it as a partnership, as opposed to like when we say, okay, let's divide the task, we do this, you do that. I think that doesn't work for like, this whole ecosystem of like, virtual classes and homeschooling. So I see it as more of like a partnership.
Agree. I actually have referred to the teachers and the therapists of Jelly and everyone are parental partners, because while I am the parent, you guys are all kind of doing the same thing, even with teaching, just taking it a step further. So then, okay, how would you give advice or advise those parents who maybe in the past were not as hands-on, or maybe who were not as involved at this level? What are some things that we can share with some of the parents who are tuning in now, who are not used to being tutors, right? Or how can we encourage them to not be afraid of taking on this responsibility in now virtual learning? And what can we do to encourage them, or how can we encourage them, Jamie?
I think just by, telling the parents to be more open-minded, and we understand it's not like one click of a finger they'll get it, because even for teachers, it takes some time. It takes some time for us to learn the tricks of the trade, the techniques and strategies. And again, I've said a while ago that we've trust into this, we've pushed into this virtual learning, being less prepared. What more parents, right? So we have that understanding. No matter how well-intentioned parents are, they still lack the knowledge. And so that's why we're just here to kind of like, making sure that we're guiding them every step of the way. I think that's really about it. It's always like constant communication with the parents, and having that understanding also from the schools that parents lack knowledge and how best to teach their kids. And so by providing them with the correct strategies, the techniques to teach their children, I think that's one of the key things that we can help parents and encourage them to take on a more active role.
Yep. I think parents must give themselves a break. First, it's never too late to start having that more hands-on opportunity. this is actually a blessing for all families, you know, for them to be able to see their kids progress, and for them to see their kids how they really are in school. So even as a parent, I see that. It's great that parents are more open, and I think they are done with the struggle or the resistance for online learning. They realize that it's hard, but I think they know that it's harder to juggle working from home and homeschooling their child. So they realize that it's hard to be a teacher, and they trust us more now, right, Jamie? That they see their kids at home. But I think it's for parents to really just be more accepting that they have to adjust. That we have to
because
adjust
everyone's adjusting.
Yes, everyone's adjusting. Their kids are adjusting. The teachers are adjusting. So they have to adjust to this new normal, or this, I don't know what it's called now, but yeah. So and that's why they also have to give themselves some space. Like, I guess they have to just define the space at home. Where is learning? Where is the workspace? And where is common family space? Where, so they still have that. Because now it's so, I'm sure there's a lot of stress at home. There's a lot of, because you're trying to define spaces for a child or a few children and yourself and your spouse. So I think it's just accepting that.
Accepting, being open-minded.
Yes, and adjusting to it.
Again, it's that positive attitude, and of course,
it is definitely
being able to zoom out and realize, you know, the big picture. We are all surviving a pandemic. We are trying to thrive in a pandemic, right?
We try. We hope so, to thrive, right?
So
it's really difficult to juggle all of these responsibilities, because I mean, I'm a single parent, and I'm juggling, like, you know, homeschooling, running a business. It's really difficult. So I think it's also being mindful of, like, you know, the position of the parents as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. Back to, you know, how we talked about the parents and the teachers and the different roles that we step into, and the parameters that we set, not just in terms of learning spaces or spaces in general, right? Because we're all on top of each other. We're all home, right? And we're all on top of each other. And so nobody has too much free time. But let's also talk about how to keep the kids safe. We are, you know, we're on the internet. This is, you know, just the environment itself of being on the internet can, of course, this is foreign terrain for little ones, right? Because we don't really allow them to be on the screens and in that space by themselves, certainly. So what can we do as educators, and then of course as parents? What can we do? Because you're both parents, so I get to ask you to play both of these roles. What can we do to protect the kids from the hazards of, you know, working online and viewing? Maybe, you know, maybe some videos are being shared, or I don't know how else you guys do that in terms of your synchronous and asynchronous classes. How can we protect the kids? Jamie.
I think first we need to think about, you know, we need to look at computers as a tool for learning, because it's different when your child is just, like, you know, passively watching shows, as opposed to, like, when there's a teacher engaging that child in conversation. And so that's that. So we need to look at first, like, you know, that computer as a tool for learning. And then also, like, you know, setting a schedule. I think for me, like, what I do with my child is like setting a schedule. Okay, so you already have that screen time now, so it's now time for, like, you know, asynchronous learning, going outside and not, you know, not watching shows or anything like that. So I think it's just, like, you know, balancing it out. I think that's the key there.
Yeah. I agree with the schedule. I completely agree. The schedule sets the day right. The child knows the schedule for the day, what's in store, what to expect. And it also calms him down. So if he sees the schedule and there's no screen time at the end of the day after class, then he realizes that I can do something else. I guess setting the limits is very important. I know it's so easy for parents, and I know it because I've experienced, like, it's easier to just give your iPad than
True.
them saying,
True.
mom, mom, mom,
True.
mom.
Right, right.
But it's really just also, as a parent, taking the time to do these other stuff with them. So
True.
if I'm not going to give them, or if we don't want the parents to give them the iPad or the
Yeah.
TV at the end of the day, then that's why I think Jamie and I mentioned, that's why we provided a guide.
Yeah.
We have activities for them that we've already chosen what's best for toddlers and for
Mm-hmm.
preschool age. So we've already chosen these activities. It's just a matter of implementing it at home.
Yeah.
In terms of asynchronous videos, actually the teachers, Kids First teachers have recorded videos for them.
Yeah.
So we send them about 3 or 4 a month for them to just go through it. And even songs, links to songs that we use in class that they can also practice while they're at home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of setting limits, and it's always keeping the child busy. So if you don't want them online, then you just have to make sure you have extra stuff at home for them
Yeah.
to do. So that's why Michelle is always baking and always, right, Miss?
And that's a
Yes,
really good activity to do with
yes.
your children.
Yes, it's
It's
so
There's
math,
fun.
skills already there.
math.
Yes,
It's
and
home
fine
skills.
motor skills,
Fine
Yes,
mixing,
motor skills
pouring,
too. Right.
right?
all of that. And then, of course, you get to eat what you bake afterwards.
That's the best thing.
Which, of course, is the best thing. Okay, so we've talked about parent roles. We've talked about the educators' roles, the teachers, and how do we see that? What are the children's roles? And aside from talking about what the children's roles are in this, of course, to sit and behave and follow. No, I'm joking. But aside from, of course, being stellar, excellent students, what are their roles? And question, are parents expected to sit with them, at this level? Do you expect a parent to be next to them all the time while they're in class? That's a valid question. Do you
It is
want,
definitely.
because, Vanessa, you talked about how children are different in class and how they're different at home. I know that
Yes.
firsthand as well. As a
Mhm.
teacher, I can see the personality of my child in a classroom
Mhm.
and the personality, of course. But so are parents, is it better? Is it worse? Are parents expected to sit beside their kids? How do you, what do you each prefer in that? I mean, do you expect the parents to be right there?
It actually depends on the level. So for
Mhm.
1 to 3, we then say, this is the best time for you to bond with your child. And obviously the kids 3 years old and below, they can't navigate yet the computers. So
Right.
for 1 to 3 years old, we encourage the parents to be there, to stay with them, to kind of like really see it as like a time for them to bond, right? To enjoy the time together. Whereas for our older children, which is like 3 to 5 years old, we try to encourage the parents like, okay, you can just then set it up for them, but you can leave, take this time to have coffee, whatever, relax. And then we can then tell your child when to call you if and when they need you, right? So that's how we try to do it with 100 Ways.
Well, with Kids First, we require a facilitator to be there just in case there are any tech issues,
Yeah.
like going offline or all of a sudden
Mm-mm.
they can't be seen. However,
Yeah.
we always tell the parents and we remind them always that they're there to help and not hover.
Yeah.
So
Right.
we also want them to keep a distance away, that they're not seen on the camera, that
Yeah.
we know that they're there, but like what Jamie said, they can enjoy their cup of coffee, they can
Yeah.
eat their breakfast at
Yeah.
the side.
Yeah.
We do encourage the parents to see what we're doing, so they know
Mhm.
also that their kids are safe. It's a safe space
Six
for
ways.
them.
Yeah.
But in terms of the parents, we'd love for them to be there. I mean, it's a different feel. It's very different. Like in the beginning, as a teacher, it's like their eyes are on me, not really on their kids as a teacher.
Mhm.
Like they're watching the teacher. But now I think they are trying to realize that their kids are so independent that they can
Mhm.
actually handle
Yeah.
online
True.
learning.
Yeah.
So it's a good opportunity for them to see that.
Mhm.
For the parents, for the kids, yes, they're very different online. Some of them are a little bit more shy because they wait for
Mhm.
the approval of the parents. Like
True.
before they answer, they look at somebody on the side and then they
If the
say,
parents are nodding.
yes, they're like, or probably doing some signs, like if we ask for a number, they're like, ooh,
Yeah.
so, but I mean, it's okay. It's okay. But we always just want them to, we hope the teachers, the parents will allow the teachers to do our work and be the one to ask and prompt the children while doing the online classes.
I'm sure you guys have seen the memes going around on Viber and through the different parent groups where, you know, there's nanay sitting away off camera with a slipper or
yes, I've seen that. That's really
I know. That's
hilarious.
funny,
But you know, we also,
but it's the reality.
it very well
it can
could
be true.
It very well could be. So taking that into consideration, knowing that, you know, there may be a hovering helicopter parent, tiger mom with a slipper, or how do you encourage or allow or empower these students and their learning styles? How do you encourage them to flourish, to open up? You know, you mentioned the shyness or the looking for approval from mom and dad. Vanny.
Okay. Yeah.
How do you encourage this, the individuality and, you know, the their own learning style to flourish in this situation?
Yes. It's been a challenge because it's different when we're doing online learning. We're not able to exactly see how they are in a different setting because it's their home. It's their where they feel the safest. So, however, that's why I think we, as teachers, we have scheduled the day, the hour, an hour, or an hour and a half that we have with them to have a balance of everything, like work, individual work, quiet work, listening to a story, dancing with us, show and tell. There's a lot of show and tell, a lot of guessing games, a lot of bring me games, a lot of just right. Yeah, a lot of those games that we incorporated in the class, just so we see who are movers, who are the more quiet ones, who like painting. There are a lot of kids when we do painting, who does not want to get messy or who likes the mess. So we have those. We have a balance every day of it's a mixed activities. So just we get to target all the likes and dislikes of some kids because we want them to also try it and realize, oh, it's okay to be messy, or it's okay that I get my hands sticky, I can wash it after. Or for kids who don't like sand, that sand is okay to play with, that there's a lot of things that you can do with it. So I think it's a matter of giving them opportunities to do it, to actually try it out. And it's okay if they don't get it the first time. We'll do it again. We'll try until they get more comfortable doing it. So that's how we've adjusted. And actually, it's the same in face-to-face learning. It's just now we just have less time. So it's a bit more frustrating for the teachers than the kids. So, yeah.
There's lesser time for us to observe the children, no?
Yeah. That's that's the downside of online learning.
So the different ways that the kids all learn, the multiple intelligences, the way they approach these things. Jamie, in the Reggio Emilia approach, the kids are active participants in their own learning. So Vanny touched on this by, you know, talking about singing, dancing, bring me, all the different ways. How does, in your setup, how does that now apply your philosophy in doing this? Also.
So I agree. I mean, just the same with Vanessa and with the Kids First Discovery Space. So for us, it's really one of the Reggio principles is also we see the children as active participants. So what does this mean? We allow children to drive their own learning, and they are encouraged to speak their 100 languages. So which is like what Vanessa just mentioned, 100 languages of children means like there are multiple ways of how children express themselves, be it through dancing, singing, playing with sand, sensory play. So all of these things, we encourage children to speak their languages, and then in turn, it empowers children to become more confident. It builds their confidence, and then giving them that kind of like intrinsic motivation. I really believe in the intrinsic motivation. So when children have that motivation, then they will be able to learn, right? Will have the interest to participate in the online activities that we provided the children, right? Because if not, and also, and if they're not happy, there's no motivation for them to do it, then nothing is going to go in their brains.
Yes, agree.
Right.
Yeah.
So since we know that attitude has a huge part in how the parents empower the kids, how the educators empower the parents. It's all connected, right? It's all interconnected.
Definitely.
How do we now, I mean, we're going to talk about very simplicity. How do you push the kids who may be shy, or who may walk away from the computer, or who are just like, this isn't for me, and then they walk away? How do we move from, or encourage a shy introverted kid to, coming and exploring in a way, we're exploring through the screen and through, this type of interaction? And, how do you address that? Because I know my daughter's gotten up and walked away too. So
mine too.
Yeah. What do we do in that situation? What's a parent's role in that situation? How do we, as educators, how do you address that? Do you push? Do you, has this happened to you guys?
Yeah, definitely. You have to understand, even in the physical, like, when children go to a physical school and they go for like their classes, they are also shy. It takes them time for them to warm up. So one more now that this is a new platform for them, it's so new to them. So I think just having that understanding that it's the same way as when they go to school as well. And also we believe in the philosophy wherein, like, we try not to force children to join if they're not ready, but we try to encourage. So we speak to the parents, because there are some factors as well as to why kids are not joining. Maybe they had a fight with their parents, or like, I don't know, it could be like they're hungry, or there's different indicators on why they are not participating, right? So we have to try to understand that. And again, it's always about like constant communication with the parents on like encouraging children and not pushing them, because the more you push children to join it, the more like they won't participate.
Right. I agree with Jamie. Yeah. And in terms of like what Jamie said, like there are a lot of factors why kids don't want to be in school, whether it's face-to-face learning or online schooling. That's why we always tell the parents the preparation starts the night before, or when school started in the beginning, weeks before. Especially kids kids were sleeping late when it was during the start of the quarantine. So we had to encourage the parents to create a routine again, like have that routine of going to bed early, waking up not early enough for their school so they can have breakfast, so they can play a little bit before school starts. For some parents, it happened to us, the kids would go to class in their pajamas. So so, and it happened. So and we expected the child not to be in a good mood because she was just woken up from her beauty sleep. So so it really starts from the night before, and also having the child be part of the preparation. Like if they already know that there's art or there's some sensory play, then maybe you can have your child, let's put in one tray everything you need for class tomorrow, so you can bring it and show it to teacher. I think they have to take a more active role. Yes, the parents can be nurturing and very loving and very protective, but they can also take care of themselves, and so they learn that I have to be responsible for my own things. And because it's I guess it's the same with Jamie. We're child-centered. Our curriculum is child-centered. So that's why the constant communication with the parents are very important, because we need to know what they're into. What do they like? Do they like cars? Do they like dinosaurs? Do they like princesses. So at least if we know what they like, we can bring that into the classroom, and they'll be surprised that, oh my gosh, we're talking about dinosaurs. That wasn't
Yeah.
even the topic, but all of a sudden
Yeah.
they're so into it, and
Mm-hmm.
then they'll be at least more and more, they'll come out of their shells. But
Mm-hmm.
all kids need time, so we just have to give them a bit more time, especially that online learning. But I don't know if Jamie will agree. Surprisingly, they're good. They're good with this online learning stuff.
Yeah. They've adjusted
adjusted
well
their
for our
they've
families.
adjusted. Yeah, right. They've
Yeah.
adjusted very well. So
Yeah.
one thing that parents should also remember: these kids are very resilient, more
True.
resilient than us. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of giving them that opportunity to
True.
do it, right?
Yeah.
So
I agree with
Okay.
Vanessa. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, okay, then let's go for, before I wrap up, let's give last tidbits of advice. Vanny, you can give us last tidbits of advice for educators. And then Jamie, you give us last bits of advice for parents. Just like a snippet, something, bullet point, or even just something quick.
all right, all right. For educators who choose to continue to teach, I applaud you, because this
Me
is
too.
not easy. This is not an easy task for any teacher, and this is really it's a steep learning curve for all of us, especially for so used to playing with the kids face to face and exploring and experiencing things with them. But kudos to you for trying it, for doing it, and for
Mm-hmm.
giving it all your best. I guess now it's just a matter of thinking out of the box. It's really just becoming more creative and more imaginative of what we can do in this tiny square we have in our classes. And it's just bringing in the parents. Always remember that the families that we have, the parents that we work with, are our number one partners this school year. So work well with them and enjoy the school year. That's it.
Jamie, for parents.
Mine is like really, really short. I actually just wanted to share this article that I read. It says that teaching can be done remotely, but education thrives in participation. I think, when people participate, it'll just thrive. You just go for it, just be open, and everyone's adjusting, and it'll thrive when you participate.
Yes, I agree.
Wonderful. Great way to close it out. So just to sum up, as we wrap up this preschool and nursery, early childhood session, it's really important that parents and educators work together to
Mm-hmm.
encourage and empower
Agree.
everyone in the trifecta, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
trifecta of parent, student, and educator.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, to be able to roll with the punches, to
Yeah.
breathe, to zoom out, to adjust, enjoy the kits, the process, and of course, remember that we're just trying to survive. And in this case, so many of us are thriving because of the educators
Mm-hmm.
like you who are helping us parents, adjust to this new reality.
Right.
Be sure to join us next week as we tackle some of the issues, the solutions, and continue the discussion for primary education. So my name is Michelle Aventajado, and I am so thankful that Vanny and Jamie, that you were able to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
joining
Thank you,
me.
Rappler.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for this session.